I believe that everyone has the potential to lead. And I would argue that the role of lead and follow are leadership. I first came up with this when I was the director of student activities and leadership at a minority-serving institution. A lot of the students didn't identify as a leader. They saw leadership as positional leadership or a title. And a lot of those students identified as Latina and Latino, and their culture was about valuing working together in community. So they didn't want to be the person that stepped out in front. I had to somehow find a way to talk to them about leadership and the competencies and skill sets that they were already demonstrating. Somehow convey to them that they could lead from anywhere in the organization, and that in order to be a leader, you have to know when to step back or step forward. You have to know when to follow and know when to lead, and that all of those roles are considered leadership. I first started dancing as a child. Jazz, ballet, tap, African dance. I think it was the way my mom kept me out of trouble. I rejoined the world of dance as an adult about 3 years ago when I started learning partner dance, salsa and bachata. And I began to see the parallels between partner dance and engaging in partnerships and teamwork. I began to recognize dance as a conversation and as communication. The lead invites or suggests a movement, and the follow accepts it and interprets it. And then there's an ebb and a flow between the two. Dance, I began to see, was a universal language. I could travel, and though I couldn't speak to someone with verbal language, as long as I knew the tenets of the roles of lead and follow, I would be able to have a communication with them. Today, I'd like to invite UT Senior Chemical Engineering major, Annie Liu, to be my dance partner. Annie and I met a month ago at a week-long leadership retreat. During the retreat, participants share their vision with the world. Annie's vision is to share her passion for dance with the world. She saw where her vision and my skill set as a dance instructor aligned. Even in this exchange, there's parallels between dance and leadership. Before you can start dancing, you have to invite someone to dance. And in leadership, you have to find buy-in and common interests to be able to begin that partnership together. So now, Annie and I are going to share with you a demonstration of bachata lead and follow. Thank you. Now, a lot of dance people imagine is totally rehearsed. But when you go social dancing, it's not. It's improvised. And people have to know the tenets of that dance to be able to do it. The first tenet I'm going to share with you today is frame. Frame is the shape that your body's in while you're maintaining movement. And so frame is the boundary that you set around yourself. In terms of leadership, this is self-awareness, knowing your boundaries, knowing your limitations. The next thing about frame is having good posture and engaging your muscles, knowing what energy you're putting out there in the world. Engaging your abdominal muscles is similar to engaging your core values and aligning your actions and your words to those values. The last thing about frame is being able to maintain the frame, even though outside forces or temptations might be trying to move you. Now, if I am trying to convey information or, as a lead, suggest a movement, and Annie breaks that frame, I can no longer communicate with her. And so she needs to maintain the integrity of that frame for us to be able to communicate. Now, whereas frame is about self-awareness, connection is about other awareness. So our next tenet we're going to talk about is connection. Connection is mostly about that physical connection between one partner and the other. Now, the tension that we have between each other is matched, and the tension ranges anywhere from 1 to 10. 1 being a slight touch, and 10 being lifts or dips. We're not doing that today. Most social dance is about a 2 to 4 connection, tension. Connection also happens typically at bone, and so either shoulder blade or shoulder, and elbows or arms. And the reason for that is if I go ahead and engage that tension, as long as she keeps her frame, then we'll be able to communicate and continue to have connection. Connection, as we're doing this leverage and compression, is about receiving and giving feedback and being very vulnerable with those who are in partnership with you. If you're able to give connection and not anticipate what I'm gonna do, then she'll be able to be able to follow the movement. Not anticipating is similar to having active listening skills and being able to not already be thinking about your rebuttal before I finish talking. And then finally, though I talked about physical connection, there is a visible or visual element that allows Annie to know what I'm about to do before I do it. So I might give her a clue with my body before taking a step. And that's how our movements might seem as though they're completely in sync and seamless, but really it's about the connection that we have to one another. So now we've learned frame and connection, let's get moving. The next step, or the next tenet I'm going to talk about is basic footwork. For bachata, the basic footwork is 3 steps and a tap. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, tap, 1, 2, 3, tap. Now, as a student affairs administrator, I often work with students outside of the classroom to help them navigate their experiences. And so I often will talk to students, staff, and alumni when they get stuck in that quarter-life crisis that happens. What do I do? What do I major in? Where do I go now? They feel as though they're stuck in place or they're going backwards and they're not sure what to do. But then I bring in dance and I say, what about when you're going backwards or going forward or going side to side or even standing still or dancing in place? It's all movement without that judgment with it, without that feeling like it's a regression, but rather it's all part of the dance of leadership, the dance of life. The other piece of learning your basic footwork is recognizing that you're gonna forget the steps at some point. You're gonna mess up, but rather when those obstacles do come, being able to learn from them and keep trying. Get back to that tap and then keep it moving. And then finally, a lot of times we'll look at someone who's been practicing for 3 years or something and say, I wanna do that, without first learning the basic footwork. Before building that foundation, we're already trying to create innovation and create creation and add our own flair. But you have to first learn the rules before you can bend them. And so recognizing that basic footwork is really important. And our last piece is gonna be turns, or how I interpret, how do we manage change? So as we begin to indicate a turn, what I'm doing is, prior to that turn happening, I'm taking Annie's hand from a neutral position and raising it to her eye level. I'm allowing her to get ready for that change, to prepare her mind, her body, her thoughts, to be able to make that change happen. The other pieces of it is, as I raise that hand, I'm raising it to about Annie's eye level or slightly above. I need to meet my follow where they are, not where I am. Okay, so no matter what height I have as a partner, I'm gonna put their hand till about their eye level to execute that turn. Then, as I initiate the turn, we're continuing to have frame and connection, AKA setting expectations and following through to make sure that turn, that change is happening. And then most importantly, we bring that hand back down to designate this change is now over. Not everyone handles change well, and so this is an opportunity to show compassion to your partner of everything's gonna be okay, I got you, we can go back to neutral position now before we continue. So, all together, we're going to raise the hand a little bit before the turn. We're gonna raise it about eye level. We're gonna execute the turn, and we're gonna bring it back down. Now, as we build trust with one another, then we're gonna be able to do turns more in succession. So I might already do another turn, or I might be able to do a double turn. Let's thank Annie for her assistance. The last thing I want to talk to you about in terms of the lessons between dance and leadership is about the roles in particular. When I was first learning to be an instructor, so envision this. I'm in the middle of the class, the students are around me, and I'm leading, I'm calling out the movements. And then a male instructor comes over, and he assists me in the middle. And so he's following, and I'm leading, and we're dancing, we're doing good. Couple rotations in, he leans in, and he says, we should switch places. We're confusing the students because the leads are looking at my footwork. In that moment, I'm a new instructor, I'm learning how to do it. I let that switch happen, and we kept it moving. But what we were doing upon reflection, I realized, is perpetuating the systematic oppression of roles by gender. We were essentially saying that only someone who presents as male can lead, and we were saying only someone who presents as female can follow. And for anyone who identified as gender non-binary, they weren't even in the conversation. And so now, as an instructor, I make sure to talk about who wants to learn the role of lead and who wants to learn the role of follow, and try really hard not to add those gendered words in there, like talking about guys to mean everyone, or talking about ladies to mean follow. There's a benefit to learning both roles, because when you understand what the other person's experiencing, you can better perform the other role. That's similar to what's going on in the workplace or in leadership, in that to be a good leader, you need to know what the follow is needing to do so that you can then be a better lead, and to know when to follow and when to lead as well. So if you never dance bachata again, or be able to watch bachata, I want you to remember to stay in your frame, or be self-aware and know and stay in your integrity, to be able to seek those connections, be able to actively listen and be vulnerable and be able to take in different perspectives and feedback, to stay true to your values and make sure that your actions and your words align with those values. And remember to build on your basic footwork and your foundation before you begin to execute change. But most importantly, try to think about and observe when you can intentionally create inclusion in different spaces for different types of leadership, because I believe that everyone has the potential to lead and follow. Thank you.